iTunes Store. Josh Lipton has more on this developing story. Josh?
Well, Kelly, when it comes to hack attacks, even the most valuable company in the world is not immune. Hackers made their way into the App Store, and specifically, they targeted some of the most popular apps in China. That included messaging app WeChat, as well as the ride-hailing app Didi Xuxing, which is an Uber-like service. And here's how this hack really worked. Apple provides developers with a set of tools to create apps, one of which is called Xcode. Now, in China, it looks like some developers used a counterfeit version of Xcode because it downloaded more quickly, and hackers were able to modify this counterfeit version and then plant malicious code onto the apps. So once downloaded, these compromised apps could prompt fake alerts to phish for user data or exploit vulnerabilities in the iOS system. Now, Apple has already removed the apps known to be created with this counterfeit software, and there's no evidence right now that any user data was actually stolen. But Ryan Olson, Director of Threat Intelligence at Palo Alto Networks, tells me Apple's reaction is the right one. He says this hack looks to be contained in his opinion, but he says we can also be sure that other hackers are going to move in and copycat this technique. The only thing we don't know, he tells me, is how successful they'll be. Bill, back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you very much. Joining us now for more on this hack is Joe Loomis. He's CEO of CyberSponse. Do we really call it a hack, though, if these guys got duped into using a counterfeit code? I mean, it's not like the hackers made their way into the App Store themselves. They duped somehow the developers themselves to use the counterfeit code. What do you make of that?
It's actually, the hack is attributed to the actual authors of the application itself. So it's kind of a byproduct. So I'd say Apple is taking a byproduct of exactly what happened at these organizations. And that's the scarier part here, is that we're starting to see hackers get into organizations that develop these apps and then deploy malicious software that they think is legitimate. And then they step away and they let them do all the dirty work for them. So it's a really brilliant scheme. But the bigger problem here is detection. Exactly right. You're looking at a true Trojan horse capability. And that's why I think there's a bigger concern here, is that now Apple's going to have to start really attacking this with much more force of scanning their products for, these applications on the App Store. And I was talking to Caleb at Blue Box today, and they encrypt apps, and they do this to try to protect apps from being reverse engineered. As Bill, as we've talked about in the past, a lot of apps are showing up as counterfeits all over the place. So you're looking at the landscape of mobile application security changing very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe, that's to be expected, though, amid the huge popularity of the App Store. So at this point, what concerns should we, as users, have?
Yeah.
What more do you think Apple, if anything, needs to do? Or is this simply a case of, as the threat changes, you have to respond to it?
It's both. The consumers need to trust that the companies that they're getting these applications from are actually doing best practices to protect themselves from these type of compromises. So in this case, it's really not Apple's fault that the authors of the software is where the malicious software started. Although I can envision that now Apple is going to start scanning applications as part of their vetting process before they make it to the consumer market. And I think they're going to start penalizing organizations for not having best practices in developing code.
Yeah,
so
but what do you
the consumers? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Joe, but let me just advance it a little further. For those people out there like Kelly and I who have Apple products, we've gotten nothing from Apple at this point. We don't know which apps we're talking about. I mean, they've identified 3 somehow that have been affected, but there are more. There are hundreds of these apps that they pulled off. We don't know whether we've downloaded any of these. So what are we to do as Apple users?
Unfortunately, right now that is something that you're going to have to wait. Unfortunately, or you're going to have to deploy some type of mobile application security. There's products like Lookout. There's products like AGV antivirus. There's products like Sophos. Sophos actually has a mobile application that you can scan all your applications on your phone for any malicious activity. So I definitely recommend that you go to Sophos and you download their mobile app, and that will scan all your applications. And I would actually, if you really want to be hyper paranoid, delete all your mobile apps, install Sophos, and then reinstall your app. And what Sophos will do is it will scan all your apps as you're installing them, looking for any malicious code.
Well, it'd be nice if that was part of the next upgrade or something.
Yeah, right.
You
Yes,
can
ma'am.
handle it for us. Joe, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Kelly.
That's Joe Loomis, the CEO of CyberSponse. The market here, the Dow's up 100.
CEO of CyberSponse. Do we really call it a hack, though, if these guys got duped into using a counterfeit code? I mean,